The 2025 Yankees were a confusing team to look back on. One of the top offenses in the American League, they finished first in runs scored in all of baseball and finished tied with the Blue Jays for the best record in the AL with 94 wins, but they ended up missing out on the division and the number 1 seed due to tiebreakers. When they were good, it was a well-oiled machine that could flood the bases, clobber home runs, and limit the other team to 3 to 4 runs at most, but when they were bad, it was ugly. If you ask fans about how the 2025 Yankees lost to the Blue Jays, they'll refer to a regressed offense in that division series, with key contributors like Giancarlo Stanton, Trent Grisham, and Cody Bellinger going completely silent in that best-of-5 set. That being said, a lot of people have looked at that series and have drawn the wrong conclusions on what the Yankees need for 2026. While that offense did take a step back, it has taken the limelight away from a pitching staff that underperformed in the postseason once again, and a staff that had some poor underlying metrics masked by really good results. My name is Ryan Garcia, and this is Fireside Yankees, and we're going to break down why the Yankees need to be hyper-focused on pitching this offseason. The Yankees got excellent results from their rotation in 2025 with the 4th best ERA and the 5th most innings pitched, but these are two metrics that are not very predictive for future results. ERA is not something that teams pay for in the current free agent landscape. Look at the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the New York Mets, who have all made notable pitching additions, and none of those guys had an ERA below 4 this past season. Dylan Cease, Sonny Gray, and Devin Williams on paper look like guys who teams shouldn't really be acquiring to make impactful roles or have impactful roles on their pitching staff, but these three teams are focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is strikeout to walk percentage. All three of these pitchers have in common a very strong strikeout to walk rate, and for the Yankees, they need to be focused on improving theirs in the rotation. The Yankee rotation finished 16th in strikeout to walk rate, and I believe this is the root of their struggles against playoff teams during the regular season and what did them in the American League Division Series. In the regular season, the Yankees had a 4.10 ERA as a rotation against playoff caliber teams, with a strikeout to walk percentage that was ranked 24th out of the 30 MLB teams. The Yankees struggled to miss bats, and as a result, would have to nibble around the zone, issue free passes, and pick their poison when to go after somebody. The issue with that strategy is that it leaves things up to chance and variance. All it takes is one good swing from a bottom of the order hitter for a situation where you've got 1 on or 2 on and nobody out to turn into a run scoring situation. It puts a ton of pressure on the pitcher to not walk a bad hitter or to not give up a hit to a bad hitter, things that can often go sideways because command varies very wildly from game to game, so it will vary very wildly from batter to batter. The Yankees relied on that with Rodon and Fried throughout the 2025 season, and those were two of the starters who got crushed the most by the Blue Jays. Heel was another guy who struggled to miss bats in zone and was, if we're being completely frank, very lucky to put up an even decent ERA in 2025, and he got lit up and knocked out pretty early by the Blue Jays. Cam Schlittler was a difference maker because Cam Schlittler was different from the other guys in their rotation. He could fill up the zone with fastballs, big velocity, and get outs and miss bats doing that, whereas the other guys in the Yankee rotation couldn't reliably do it. Max Fried did have good fastball results during 2025, and I do believe that his tough start against the Blue Jays was more of an aberration than something to be worried about, but for guys like Heel, for guys like even Rodon coming back from injury, and for guys like Will Warren as well, you can't really expect them to be big-time guys in terms of strikeout to walk rate, and you can't really expect them to perform very well in a playoff setting because the postseason is about missing bats constantly and being able to dominate in that category. The Yankees have seen this issue flare up for them in the postseason over the last few years, and the last 2 years specifically have been pretty rough for this rotation. Despite logging over 100 innings from their rotation in the last 2 postseasons, the Yankees have a rotation ERA of 4.53 with a 4.35 FIP in that setting. They have not been able to get good results in that capacity, and compare that to the offense where the Yankees have finished top 3 in average OPS and WRC plus over those 2 years, and you've suddenly got a scapegoat in the offense and a group that has not been talked about enough in that rotation. They have not been able to miss bats, they have not been able to keep the ball in the yard, and you can argue that the ALDS was lost because of uncompetitive starting pitching. With the Yankees, they need to find a way to improve this group and make this group more dynamic, bring in more swing and miss arms, bring in more velocity, bring in more high octane stuff, because currently the Yankees have struggled with velocity and strikeout to walk rate over the last 2 years. The two worst pitching staffs in terms of fastball velocity and strikeout to walk rate in the Matt Blake era were the 2024 and 2025 teams. The Yankees need that to change if they want to win the World Series in 2026, which is why I desperately call on GM Brian Cashman to make a big addition to the rotation. It does not have to be a Tarek Skubal. It can be someone who profiles as more of a number 2 starter, and that kind of pitcher would make a big impact because if you get a swing and miss arm, they're going to be a difference maker for your group. Tatsuya Imai and Michael King strike me as reasonable pitching prices, guys who come with swing and miss stuff, who miss a ton of bats, and are rumored interest of target for the Yankees in free agency. They've been linked to both, and I think they'd be pretty excellent upgrades. On the pitching side of things, I would look at Freddie Peralta and Joe Ryan as other guys who miss a ton of bats, strike out a ton of batters, and can help the Yankees improve their overall strikeout to walk rate. They desperately need to add another starter despite the resources they've already poured into that group, and I believe the Yankees can do so by either A, making that splash in free agency, or B, making a trade. There are plenty of pitching assets out there, and if we look at who I would pick from this group, I think I'm taking Tatsuya Imai. The Japanese star pitcher has a unique repertoire that I think could translate well into MLB. He had a 32% whiff rate this past year, the highest qualified whiff rate for any NPB pitcher among qualified pitchers since that metric began being tracked in 2014. No one's had a higher mark than 32% in the season, so that's pretty incredible. And NPB pitchers seem to have their whiff rate pretty much maintain itself. There's about a 1% decrease, but it's nothing crazy, and I think that if the Yankees are able to get him to translate his whiff rate from 32% to whatever it'll be in the big leagues, maybe it's 30, maybe it's 31%, he'll be one of the top swing and miss arms in the game. I understand I mentioned a lot of rotational issues, and it would be wrong of me to not mention the fact that they are getting Garrett Cole back. They've got a lot of talent in the farm. LaGrange, Rodriguez, Hess, all guys who can come up this year if they have strong minor league seasons, but I still think they need more. They need to reinforce themselves externally and make sure that when you go into the postseason, you've got Fried, Schlittler, Cole, Rodon, and another guy in that mix who can take the ball in the postseason. Injuries are going to just crush your current depth. It happens every year. It's not just a Yankee issue. It's a baseball issue. Look at the Dodgers. You're going to need to make sure you're protected from that very issue, and it's why they need to add to their rotation. As for the Yankee bullpen, the loss of Devin Williams to the Mets and the free agency of Luke Weaver will impact the Yankees if they don't add to this group, because both those guys are high swing and miss pitchers, which the Yankees do need in this staff. Both had good fastballs. I know that Williams struggled with the Yankees, but he was really good down the stretch, and Weaver kind of had the inverse, really bad down the stretch, but was one of their most impactful relievers if you look at win probability added. So both guys would be impact arms in 2026. You kind of have to hope that if the Yankees lose both, they're able to replenish that, and I think they're going to be able to. Brian Cashman always there when it comes to adding to his bullpen. He always tries to improve his staff, and I think we could see that happen here. In the trade market, Trevor McGill, the closer of the Brewers, would be an excellent name to look at. A more reasonable name would be Garrett Clevenger of the Rays. Both these guys have big fastballs, big whiff rate, struck out over 30% of batters faced in 2025. That's the exact kind of prototype they should be looking at for the bullpen. Power fastballs, more velo, better fastballs that can just fill in the zone, attack hitters, and blow them away. That's what the Yankees should be looking for. In free agency, I think the Yankees are going to be more of the opportunistic, try and get a guy who they can pick up and make better. Two guys in that classification for me would be Gregory Soto and Hunter Harvey. Same mindset, one lefty, one righty, same kind of fastball quality. Not as much the velocity for these guys as it is for Miguel and Clevenger, who throw a little bit harder, but they've got really fun shapes on their fastballs. They do have 96, 97 mile per hour fastballs, but they have a little more injury concern, consistency concern than the previously mentioned guys. They would still be big additions for this bullpen, and I do think that the existence of Camilo Doval, Fernando Cruz, and David Bednar give them a good front three. It's about filling out the rest of that depth chart and hoping for some internal improvements with Jake Bird and Brent Hedrick, who are two swing and miss guys who can also help this group. Adding swing and miss to this bullpen, adding fastball velocity to this bullpen, that should be the two keys for the Yankees going into this offseason. I'd like to see them add one lefty, one righty. I know Hill's in this group, but I don't want Hill to be the best reliever on the Yankees from the left-handed side. I want it to be somebody else. That would give the Yankees this dynamic top 5 bullpen in the game. You want to pair Tatsuya Imai with Garrett Clevenger and Hunter Harvey. You've got a dynamic, not super expensive group as well. Harvey shouldn't cost a lot in free agency. Clevenger's going to make around $3 million in arbitration money this year. It's a lot of strikeouts you're adding to your staff. It's a lot of swing and miss, and it's a lot of excellent raw stuff. This is the kind of offseason you can map out for the Yankees on the pitching side, and it would give them this top flight group, top 10 rotation, top 5 bullpen pretty comfortably. The conclusion of this video is not that the Yankees should avoid their offense and shouldn't bring in Bellinger and should just roll with whatever they have right now. It's that projections like their offense. Despite what people think, they like it. This is a team that just ran off the best offense in baseball last year, ran the third best offense in baseball the year prior, the best offense in the American League the last 2 years. This is a good offense. They've been good. James Rousing has led 2 strong offenses with very different personnel. He had the Soto-Judge combination in year 1. This year, a lot more variance, a lot more question marks, and this group overperformed dramatically, but not in terms of their underlying metrics, just compared to preseason expectations. Different from the rotation. Both had strong results. Offense had really good underlying metrics. The underlying metrics suggest these guys were legit good. And if you look at the Yankee offense, you add Cody Bellinger and like a right-handed bench bat, they're going to project to be a top 2, top 3 group in the league when you factor in offense, base running, defense, all those things. That's going to go a very long way. They're right now projected to be the best position player group in baseball, but obviously with the offseason, you expect teams like the Blue Jays, teams like the Dodgers potentially to add to their position player group. That'll definitely change. I expect the Yankees to finish closer to 3rd in that regard. But when you make these big pitching additions, you improve your potential strikeout to walk rate or your projected strikeout to walk rate, and you give yourself a better chance against good teams. I have to remind you guys again, the Yankees struggled against good teams, not as an offense, as a pitching staff. They struggled against good hitting lineups, not good pitching teams. That's where the Yankees struggled the most, and they need to find ways to improve that in 2026, and it's the whole point of this video. You need to improve your strengths. You need to improve your strengths because your strength can get better, but you need to make sure you make big improvements to your weaknesses. They are not going to naturally just get better as a pitching staff because Garrett Cole comes back. He could come back and not be effective. Rodon can come back and not be effective. They're over 33 years old and coming back from arm surgery. It's not the craziest outcome in the world. They need to make sure they add impact starters to both the rotation and the bullpen, because if they do so, they could be raising the Commissioner's Trophy at the end of the 2026 season.
Perfect.